I found explicit pictures of my kid sister on the internet, and not only is she the uploader, but she is playing an online persona that is the complete opposite of who she is in real life, and these fans of hers treat her like utter crap, which she seems to love. Posted by you/blind with worry. So I stumbled across some not safe for work pictures of my kid sister on the internet. What do I do? First and foremost, no, I didn't save any of them. Second, no, I will not tell you where I found them. Third, no, I did not jerk to them. This is a serious situation, so please take your inappropriate comments elsewhere, if that's not too much to ask. Sigh. The other night I was up late finishing a paper for school. I attend a university but commute from home. When I decided it was time to look for some corn, it's on the internet now, in case you didn't know. Through sheer random chance, a random link on a site/board I frequent, I stumbled across a picture of a rather attractive looking blonde. I opened up the first pic in the series and, lo and behold, it was my sister. Without giving too much away, the pic was of her, naked, on her bed, and obviously a self-shot. Obviously, I was freaked out for a number of reasons. First and foremost being the fact that she's my sister, for Christ's sake. Second, she's only 16, meaning the picture is illegal. I immediately deleted it, emptied my browser's cache, and ran an eraser program just in case. I then disabled the display of images and went back to the thread I'd found it on. Why would I do this, you might ask? Because my sister is sort of messed up, and I was concerned. By messed up I mean that she was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 10 or so and then PTSD after she was SA'd by an extended family member when she was 13. That's a long story, suffice it to say, the case never went to court, and the monster cousin who did it is in jail on a plea arrangement. Later, and most recently, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is what I think she's had all along. Things got a lot better for her once she started on her new meds. She stopped getting into so much trouble at school, her grades picked up, and she wasn't fighting with our parents so much anymore, either. As recently as a month ago, my dad remarked to me in private that he was so proud of how well Julie, not her real name, has been doing. Then I stumbled across this thread, and now I'm extremely worried. What the F is she thinking? I already knew she spent a lot of time online, but I had no idea she was spending it pandering to anonymous internet perverts on an image/message board. I did some more investigating, and a search for her alias revealed that she's been posting on 2 such boards for at least the last 6 months. There are some huge gaps in her posting frequency, but typically she's posted about once a week on average. Sometimes she posts several times a day. From the little red X's I saw during this investigation, she's been including images of herself at least 10% of the time. I don't know why she's doing this. For attention? Hell, she gets plenty of attention at home. Our mother does whatever she wants, and our father worships the ground she walks on, too. Plus, whenever she gets upset, she always comes to me for advice or help. I'm sort of the stereotypical stalwart big brother, there to take care of her, etc. We've always been close, even during her craziest phases, and my most reclusive ones. Now I don't know what to do. For the last few nights, I've debated asking some of my friends about it, but I've been afraid they might try finding said images for themselves. I have good friends, but I know how guys are, seeing as I am one. I also know that at least a few of them have had the hots for her for a while now. Besides, admitting to them that I've seen my sister like that might creep them out. Or I could talk to my parents. But then I'm afraid they'll do what they did last time Julie freaked out, put her in a mental hospital. I certainly don't want to be the cause of that. Another option would be to talk to her about it. But, God, then I'd have to admit I'd seen one of her nude pictures. What would she think of me then? I know half of Reddit will never believe what I said above about me only looking briefly and then deleting entirely. What are the odds she'd believe me? What if it pissed her off? What if she accused me of being a pervert? Or what if she just became uncomfortable around me for the rest of our lives? Hell, I've sort of been uncomfortable around her since that picture heard around the world. Damn. I don't know what to do. I think it is very, very unhealthy for her to pander to these internet perverts. In one of the most recent messages she posted, she said she would start doing videos soon. The worst thing is, these guys, her supposed fans, treat her like crap. They demand more all the time, and they call her all sorts of mean names. Her replies to such vileness play into what they say. Reading through the most recent thread was heartbreaking for me. She admitted in it that she's worthless and a SLT at heart and stupid because these guys want her to be that. They call her those things, and she goes along with it, even though I know she's not. She's actually loved, and pure, and brilliant. Why would such a girl behave so differently online? Please, Reddit. I know some of you are dying to post a funny or sarcastic remark, but please refrain. I love my little sister. If you have any thoughts on how I can best handle this situation, please share. Otherwise, go on over to /or/funny. Thanks. Top/relevant comments. Op when told to reach out to the website directly. I should have mentioned this already, but I did contact them. It was the first thing I did. They never replied to my emails, and the pictures are still up on both sites. I guess I could go the distance and contact the authorities, but for all I know, these sites are run in foreign countries. I'm in the USA. Besides, would it really help that much? If her pics are yanked from one site or another, you just know they'll end up on a third. I'm more concerned with the why of Julie wanting to post them in the first place than I am with the why of sites wanting to host them. Because that last question is easy, my sister is hot. It feels sort of creepy to say that, but it's true. Ugh. Commenter. The reason she's behaving like this is probably because of her SA incident. SA either causes you to shut down sexually or it causes you to go into overdrive, and it sounds like your sister is doing the latter. Why? It's not an attention thing so much as it is confusion about having control over one's own body. Doing this allows her to expose herself in an unhealthy way, yes, but all the same, by her own volition. This is an empowering sense for a woman who has been SA'd. That doesn't mean that it's okay or justified. That's just what's happening. I have actually survived SA, and I didn't go down this path, but I did go down a pretty promiscuous one, which I have now overcome. My older brother heard the stories and talked to me about it, plain and simple. Knowing that my brother cared about me, and that I was worth something more than my sexuality, probably saved me from a lot of hurt. Point being, you talking to her about it is awkward, yes, and she may deflect. But starting out a conversation with her is important, because you're in a position to save her from a lot of pain. Hey, I was wondering if I could talk to you for a minute. Listen, I really love you, and so I was worried when I came across these pictures of you on the internet the other night. Your sex life isn't my business, but all the same, I'm here to talk to you, should you ever need anyone. Ops response. That's all great advice, and thanks for it. But what if she freaks out that I saw one of her pics? I can just see her totally freaking, no matter how I tell her about it. Maybe I could just lie and tell her that a random friend of mine told me about them? There's always the chance she'll lie and tell me he's wrong, but that might be a good workaround. Thoughts? Commenter 2. Okay, former teenage girl here. She's probably just being a moron and experimenting with her sexuality in a dumb as crap way. I saw a lot of my friends do that sort of thing. Not videos so much, but photos or chatting with two old guys who did the whole SLT thing. So, first off, don't freak too badly. Freak a little, but this doesn't mean she's going to grow up and have crack babies. She'll probably just grow up and be a little bemused as to why the F she did that. Second of all, talk to her. I'm not sure what the F you say. I know I could tell my little sister that I saw her photo and WTF was she thinking? The internet is forever. Find better ways to test sexual boundaries. But I'm not an older brother, so you're going to have to judge on this one. Would you talk to her about sex/corn, and not in a creepy way, obviously, in a mentor way? If so, I think you could probably bring it up. You need to bring it up, obviously. It also wouldn't hurt to bring in a female friend, if you've got one you trust and one she looks up to drive home the point that there are better ways to get male attention/play with sexuality and boundaries/etc. than this. If you want, I can try to recreate the speech I gave my sister about this sort of shit, on calling yourself a SLT, letting other people do it, naked photos, etc., so you have talking points. You know your parents and if it would be best to involve them. I know I'd tell my mom, but she'd be as cool with it as a mom could be, and my sister would never be able to get on the internet again and would be forced to talk about why she was doing it with a therapist, not put away. And with the SA thing, I bet on some level she's trying to regain control. This is her body and her choice, you know? Ops response. That's all good advice. Damn, Reddit is awesome. A couple thoughts. Maybe I didn't make this clear in my original post, but let me be plain, if I tell our parents about this, my sister will be sent back to the hospital. That might be for the best, in truth, but I don't want to be the cause of it. Julie has never told me exactly why, but she said that her last time there, she's been there twice, was the worst experience of her life. One of the most heart-wrenching moments of my life was seeing her after a 3-week stay about a year ago. She cried in my arms about it. I won't and can't do anything to cause such an experience again for her. Period. So I have to keep our parents in the dark. I'm starting to realize, though, that I do need to talk to her. Hell, maybe I should just tell her to post her concerns/worries/etc. to Reddit. Commenter 3. I know this won't be a popular response, but don't worry about it so much. I did this when I was 16, too. It made me feel pretty and wanted at a time when I was feeling very awkward. I was also the victim of SA at a young age and had severe body issues for a long time. Being naked on the internet made me feel good. I was careful and made sure that my face and identifying things were never in the same picture as my nudity, though. But that's not a conversation you want to have with your sister, lol. Needless to say, it didn't ruin my life or career, and I'm not sorry I did it. Ops response. Thanks for sharing, but that doesn't apply here. My sister is doing nothing to hide her identity, other than having a fake alias she uses to post. Again, what worries me the most is how horrible her fans treat her, and how she seems to embrace it. Let me put it to you this way, if I'd run across a pic of her without any context, just a random nude pic of my little sister, I'd have felt embarrassed, would have erased the file, and forgotten about it. This isn't the case here, though. She is actively communicating with freaky douchebags on at least 2 image boards and doing what they ask her to do. And it's all horrible. Update 8 days later. So my kid sister was put in a mental hospital by our parents, and it's my fault. Advice, thoughts? I feel really bad about this, and I figured I'd tell Reddit my tale in the hopes of receiving more advice and or being cheered up. I ended up confronting my sister 2 days after making the original post about her here on Reddit. I used a lot of the good advice I received from that post and brought up finding the pictures in an open, caring way, warning her that she could get in huge trouble, underage corn, telling her that I was there for her, I loved her, and she could always talk to me about anything. She responded coldly but didn't freak out. She just wanted to know if I was going to tell our parents. I said I wouldn't if she promised to stop posting. She agreed. It was a very tense conversation, but I tried my best to come across as understanding and caring. I never raised my voice, I never called her stupid or anything like that for what she was doing, etc. The next day, she confronted me, and boy, was she pissed. She told me I was a jerk and a pervert, that I wasn't her father and couldn't control her, that no one could tell her what to do, etc. It was a typical manic/teenage blow-up. I'd never seen her so angry at me before. She wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise, and she went on to say crazy stuff about how if I told on her, she'd get one of her online boyfriends to beat me up. I decided right away what I needed to do, and I almost posted about it here on Reddit, but my guilty conscience kept me from doing so. That night, while she was out with her friends, I went on her computer and was able to find all her Google Talk chat records. She wasn't logged into her Gmail account, but she had her browser, Internet Explorer, set to log her in automatically. I felt really guilty doing this, but after her tirade I became convinced she must be off her meds. Her confrontation with me was a classic manic episode, and I wanted to know what she was up to. I told myself I'd look once, and if I found nothing more worrisome than what I was already aware of, I'd stop spying on her and consider talking to her again when she calmed down. Unfortunately, what I found was very worrisome. The situation was much, much worse than I'd ever imagined. I found a chat she had with someone she obviously met through one of those forums she was posting on. A search for his email address in her Gmail account showed hundreds of chats and emails with this man dating back to early spring. I read a few of their recent chats and discovered that she was planning on meeting him at the end of the month. Apparently, a concert I'd known she was supposed to be going to with a real-life friend was just a cover for hooking up with this guy at a nearby motel. He even sent her a ticket, so he had her real mailing address, to complete the facade. That concert ticket has been hanging on our fridge for about a week. Based on their most recent chats, it was clear she's been talking to this douchebag on the phone too, or maybe over Skype. There were gaps in their chats which made them confusing. What I was able to deduce, though, was that this guy is married with 3 kids, 1 in college, so he's definitely way too old for my 16-year-old sister. He knows her age, too, because she chatted a lot about high school with him. It also became clear to me that my sister has been very promiscuous with boys at school. She chatted with this jerk about all these guys she's been with. Oh, and guess how most of these chats with my sister started? Him messaging her and saying, "Hey, little SLT, how goes it? Nice guy, huh?" Even more disturbing than all that was the fact that she kept referring to her other online boyfriends in chats with this prick. She chatted extensively about one guy she allegedly met, and who this prick apparently knew from the board, who apparently hit her while they had sex, chipping her tooth. I remember her chipped tooth. She had to get it fixed back in July, and she'd told all of us it was from taking a fall off her bike. Unfortunately, I think she chats mostly by using YIM or AIM because in some of her chats with the prick she said things like, "Lol, chatting with so-and-so from the board right now, he's thinking of flying out to meet me," stuff like that. I couldn't get into her YIM or AIM accounts. I'm glad I couldn't access her YIM or AIM accounts because what I read in her exchanges with the prick was more than enough to worry me sick and make me literally want to cry. She talked a lot about her promiscuity at school and even with guys she'd already hooked up with from online. He, in turn, encouraged her to do even more. Now, I have no idea how true any of her crazy stories to him were. Some of them seem really over the top, and I hope to God they were just manic lies. But while at first I thought they were all BS, as I read more and more I became convinced that at least some were true. I stopped my snooping without hardly putting a dent in reading all that crap. I just couldn't stomach it, but I did print out the series of chats and emails with her plotting to meet the prick at the motel. Thankfully, they talked about it extensively online, so there was all the proof, the address of the actual motel, long, and graphic, discussions about what they'd do to one another that night when they met, her thoughts about how easy it was to fool our parents, his thoughts about how easy it was to fool his wife that he'd be going out of town on business on a Friday, etc. There was no need to ask Reddit what I needed to do now. The next day I told my dad that I needed to have dinner with him in private, and I brought along my ill-gotten gains, the damning printed out chats and emails I'd violated my sister's trust to obtain, to the restaurant. He thought I needed to talk about how stressful this semester at college has been, and instead I told him the whole story, from finding the pictures of her online to snooping on her computer and discovering all the other crap. My dad was really cool about it. He was obviously heartbroken and upset, but somehow he made it strangely easy to admit to him that I'd seen my sister naked and had been spying on her since. After laying the whole thing out to him, he took a long break away from the table, presumably to use the bathroom, but I'm 95% sure he went outside for some air, and when he returned, he told me through blurry eyes that he agreed with my assessment, that she was off her meds and clearly needed professional help. To keep her close to home, he grounded her the next day for skipping a class the previous week. He didn't want to tell her the real reason he was grounding her. Meanwhile, he brought my mom in on the whole thing. I can only imagine what that conversation was like. He then contacted his lawyer. He so wanted to bust the guy trying to meet up with my sister. Unfortunately, the lawyer said she's technically old enough to consent to having sex in this state and that there was no way to reveal that guy has illegal pictures of her without also revealing to the cops that my sister had been committing a crime, posting underage pics of herself. His advice was to take away her computer and get her help. That's what happened yesterday. When my sister got home from school, me, our parents, my dad's lawyer, and a counselor from the hospital they were putting her in greeted her in the living room. We did an intervention-style thing, and I had to tell her why I was concerned about her in front of everyone, and basically confess that I was the reason she was being put in a hospital again. All she did was cry and shake and beg not to be put away, which made me cry while I spoke and after, too. She didn't seem mad at me, but she became an emotional train wreck only minutes after entering the house and realizing what was going on. I'm so worried she's going to hate me when she calms down enough to fully comprehend what I did. She's been in the hospital for a solid day now, and me and my parents are supposed to go visit her tomorrow. I'll let you all know how that goes in exchange for one of two things: advice or attempts to make me feel better for what I did. Jesus Christ. You'll remember from my last post that she's been locked up before. She told me a long while back that that was the worst experience of her life, and she cried the entire time she shared that experience with me. I begged my dad at that dinner meeting not to send her back to the same place, which sounded awful, and thankfully he took my advice and found her a nicer place. I haven't seen it yet, but my dad spent the time between that dinner I had with him and the actual lockup researching such institutions. This one is a 2-hour drive away but is supposed to specialize in adolescents. Even so, I feel like crap for being the reason she's getting locked up again. But I have no idea what I could have done differently. She did such a good job of hiding the fact that she was going through her manic craziness again that I would never have suspected she was off her meds. Oh, by the way? She definitely was. She talked about flushing her pills every morning in some of those chats with that guy. He, of course, encouraged that, if I hadn't stumbled across that pic of her on that forum and confronted her about it. Still, this is my sister I'm talking about. I love her, and I do not want her to hate me. I feel like I stabbed her in the back by doing what I did. I keep thinking I could have done something different. Maybe I could have gotten through to her one-on-one. Maybe I didn't need to get our dad involved. Jesus. Reddit, please make me feel better. Advice for the future and accolades for doing the best thing are much appreciated. If you think I did wrong, though, I'm man enough to take that, too. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. There is no way that you can say that it was your fault. You're a good brother to her and always will be, and you did the right thing. I hope this ends well, and it was one of the best possible outcomes that could have happened toward a good ending. Op's response. Do you have siblings? There's this sort of trust between siblings, I've always felt. I'll watch your back if you watch mine. And that's why I feel so bad. I didn't watch her back. I freaked out and basically, because of me, she's been committed to a effing hospital. I have no idea how I could have handled it better, but I still feel awful. I'm the big brother. I'm supposed to be smart enough to figure out how to help her without getting her locked up. I guess I'm just not as smart as I thought I was. Commenter 2. As bad as you feel, I think you did the right thing. I think this is a situation where a professional could be helpful. Just remember that you did it for her own good. Op's response. I hope so. I'm a hardcore atheist, but I find myself praying to God that you're right. Second update 1 month 2 weeks later. My sister is now out of the hospital, and the best Christmas gift of all? She doesn't hate me. Reddit was right once again. Editor's note, Op recapped his post here, so I'm skipping ahead to the new information. Okay, so my little sister, Julie, was in the hospital for almost 2 months. During that time, she refused to see me. My mom, my dad, even 2 uncles and 1 aunt? She saw them at visits. But she refused to see me. I was convinced the entire time that the reason she didn't want to see me was that she hated me. I must have reread my second post about this 100 times just to reinforce my belief that I had done the right thing by telling our dad about the situation. Believe me, the comments in that second post really did sustain me. I've never loved Reddit so much as I have during some of the worst sleepless nights I've gone through, nights where I felt like the crappiest brother ever. Reading your assurances that I had done the right thing really helped me get through this very difficult time. We were told 2 weeks ago that she was scheduled to be released on the 21st of December. This had nothing to do with money or insurance. My parents were paying out of pocket for her stay there, but cost was never an issue. Apparently, she has adjusted well to her new medications and is in a much better, more sober state of mind now. I was thrilled to learn she'd be home for Christmas. I dreaded seeing her only because I had not seen her since the intervention that led to her being hospitalized in the first place. I was so worried she hated me that I even told my mom, upon hearing the news of her release, that I would gladly crash at my friend's house for a while. My mom's response? Are you crazy? She wants you to be the one to pick her up. Sorry, I still get teary-eyed when I remember that. So it turns out that the reason my sister didn't want to see me that entire time, 2 months, was that she was embarrassed. She didn't mind seeing our parents or our uncles and aunt, but she just couldn't handle seeing me. She felt like she'd let me down or something. I drove nearly 2.5 hours out to the hospital last Monday, only the second time I'd ever been there, alone, and greeted her in the reception area. She literally ran over and jumped into my arms when she saw me. I cried like a baby, Reddit, and I'm not embarrassed to admit as much. We talked a ton during the drive home. She has a much firmer grasp on her condition now than she did before. Best of all, and Reddit was right about this, she does not hate me for turning her in. She's healthy. She's safe. She's on medications to deal with her bipolar disorder. And she actually thanked me for intervening before she did something stupid, like meeting up with that one guy. I worried so much, for so long, for nothing. My little sister still loves me. And I did do the right thing. Thank you, Reddit, for all of your thoughts and comments during this time. I've been feeling miserable for so long because of all this, but your thoughtful comments and suggestions helped keep me from going into despair. This is why I love this site. Thank you again. Edit. A few things. First, to all of you well-wishers, thank you so much for the kind words and good wishes. They mean so much to me, you have no idea. Second, to the anti-meds crowd? Get a job. Sure, meds are sometimes overprescribed, I won't argue that. But my sister didn't have an episode or a temper tantrum that was misdiagnosed as bipolar type I disorder. While I'm sure that happens sometimes, you are in absolutely no position to gauge what my sister was going through. You don't know her, but I do, and trust me, the girl who was posting those long, crazy messages on those image boards? The girl who confronted me and threatened me with all kinds of crazy nonsense the day after I talked to her? The girl, in short, who was off her medications. That was not my sister. That was my sister in a manic episode. If you have to ask what the difference is between a manic episode and typical teenage angst/temper, you've never seen one. I hope you never have too, because they are scary. Scary, scary. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tirade about that. It's just frustrating to read some of the holier than thou. You do realize bipolar is the ad of the 2000s, right? Type of messages this post has garnered. So effing annoying. Go give L. Ron Hubbard some money, but STFU on this post, please. Again, I'm sorry. The vast majority of the responses here have been so supportive and uplifting, but the few trolls who managed to get a bunch of upmods for being contrarian did sort of piss me off. Done being angry, Reddit. Oh, as for her long-term care? She's going to be an IOP, intensive outpatient, for the foreseeable future. That means, starting in January, daily visits to a local clinic where she'll receive both group and individual therapy. She's also going to see the psychiatrist she took a huge liking to at the hospital once a month until she finds a new doctor to replace her. She's fine with all this and is actually excited about it. She has this journal she keeps showing me that she writes in when she starts to feel unbalanced. She says it's like her own private group therapy, but she can't wait to be in the real thing again. Our dad took away her computer, but he set it up in the living room right next to the television set, and she's free to use it whenever she wants. She has absolutely no privacy on it, but she seems to be okay with that. I think the biggest test will be when she goes back to school. She lost an entire semester because of her hospitalization and she'll be needing to go to summer school to make up for it. While she says she's fine with that, I know it sort of bums her out. Plus, school is usually a trigger, so I've noticed, for her bad depressive and manic periods. But I really believe she's ready this time. I've never seen her so strong and resolved to handle her condition as she appears right now. Well, that's it. This is most likely the last thing I ever type using this account. As I mentioned in my original post, I have a real Reddit account that I often use, and I simply created this one for this particular issue. I am very glad that I did, too. Reddit came through for me in a big way. I hope that others out there who are in any kind of strange / heartbreaking / etc. type of situation look to this experience and find inspiration to share their own story, whatever it is. The trolls and the jerks try to grind us down, but Reddit is good at fighting back. I so effing love this place. I love you all. Yes, even the trolls and the jerks. Adieu from Blind with Worry. Oh, actually, the last thing, forgot to mention. As to the prick. Believe me, like most of you, I want to go after this prick. I really do. I actually had a huge argument with my father about this about a month ago. When I calmed down, though, I realized that the legal advice he was getting was correct. Fanning flames risks spreading fire. What my sister needs now, what our family needs now, is time to heal. Would it feel good to crush that mother effer? Sure. Would it draw everything out, though? Definitely. That would not be a good thing. Sometimes what feels good is actually bad, or at the very least can make a situation worse than it already is. Let me put it like this, say I posted his Gmail username here, and Reddit went to town crushing him in all sorts of ways. So he decides, heck, that beach ratted on me. I'll show her. And he ends up reposting the obviously self-shot images to every site and image board, maybe even here on Reddit. Not only would that humiliate her, but it might have legal ramifications for her. What's done is done. Trust me, I know it's a bitter pill to swallow. I'd like nothing better than to meet this jerk someday and do things to him that would get me 20 to life in a state prison. But when you think on it logically, what good does that do for my sister? For myself? For my family? As tempting as it is to send his wife an anonymous letter, too, there's just one problem. I don't have his address. In short, I'm just going to have to leave my revenge fantasies to my imagination and Tarantino movies. This jerk / douchebag will likely off himself one of these days anyway. In the meantime, no fanning the flames. Doing so spreads fires. And those are the final words, I swear this time, of Blind with Worry.